So Chris Avellone is, I wouldn't really know how to describe him. He was been involved in a few really great games, to my knowledge. He was involved with one of my personal favorites, Fallout New Vegas, the KOTOR games, and a few others that I don't really know that much about. But yeah, I've got this article about him, which I'll be linking to in the description. It's by Eric Kane. And yeah, video games writer Chris Avellone breaks silence, files libel lawsuit against accusers. And for those of you who aren't in the know, he was accused by two women, I guess, of I think sexual misconduct or assault. It's hard to remember. Like I haven't read the article yet. I'm doing that now. But before I do that, based on what the title would say, good. These people who, if these women are lying, they need to be made an example of. But yeah, moving on. Games writer Chris Avellone has broken. Well, actually, hold on. I never saw the date on this. Okay, so it's from today. Games writer Chris Avellone has broken his silence a year after sexual misconduct allegations were leveled against him on Twitter. The allegations, while never proven or even investigated in any serious way, nevertheless effectively derailed his decades-long career in the video game industry. Now Avellone is not only breaking his silence, but has filed a libel suit against two of his accusers. Now, I don't think the suit will go anywhere because, like, the legal system is kind of biased against men, and it sees women as victims constantly, and they need to be protected and all that crap. So I do not think this will go anywhere. I mean, the Vic Mignogna case didn't go very far. The Johnny Depp case didn't go that very far. Granted, Johnny Depp's case was in Britain, one of the most corrupt justice systems apparently on Earth. But yeah, if you're a guy, if you have something dangling between your legs and you file a suit, yeah, you might as well expect the odds to be stacked against you. But still, I think this is a step in the right direction. I still think these women should be called out on their bullshit if they are lying. And I think they are. Because a lot of women recently have come out and accused people of doing these things, of struggle snuggling, and they turned out to be utter bullshit. But yeah, the accusations were leveled by Carissa Barrows, a woman Avellone met in 2012 at Dragon Con, and Kelly Bristol, who Avellone claims to not remember ever meeting. They were made publicly in 2020, years after the events that took place between Barrows and Avellone. As always, there are two or more sides to every story, and while Burroughs told hers very publicly last year, Avellone has remained largely silent. He broke that silence today with a series of tweets and a blog post. Again, I spent the last year trying to persuade myself that these acts were done out of misguided self-righteousness. I tried to correct the record, allow voices to be heard, but I was wrong. These attacks were malicious, and they must be challenged. Yeah, no, you should have challenged them from the very start. It comes to this, my expanded statement here, more to follow. Avellone waited a year to come forward in the statement. He's been hard at work gathering the evidence he needs to clear his name, and he's taking his accusers to court in order to do so by filing several libel charges in Orange County, California. Oh, good luck with that. It's in California. Like, California is bizarro world as far as I'm concerned, where up is down, left is right, right is wrong. So yeah, you might as well take this to the British or Australian court. But anyway, a long list of digital evidence and witness testimony has been compiled over the past year, end quote, writes Avellone, quote, with that in hand, I filed a formal response last week, not to silence Carissa and Kelly, but to encourage them to speak more. End quote. At the time these accusations were made, Avellone was working as a writer on Techland's excellent-looking Dying Light 2 and Gato Salvage's The Waylanders. The tweets were blasted out on Friday night, and by the next Monday morning, his role at Techland was over. His work with developing Gato Salvaggi was also terminated abruptly. Yeah, these people who do this sort of thing, I think they do this just out of maliciousness, either because they're attention whores, or they really just want to tear some people down. They're bullies, basically. Now, I don't know Avellone that well. I don't know him from Adam. But whenever someone just comes out and says they were this or that lately, I tend not to believe them. Like this is the consequence of Me Too. You've made it hard to believe women now. Because you waited, apparently, years to bring this stuff out, and only now when stuff was going... Well, actually, no, things have been going well for Avellone for a long time, but yeah, only now do you decide to do it, and it seems a little too convenient. Quote, this next bit might surprise you, in quote, Avellone notes, quote, I didn't fight any of this. You can't. Cancel culture being what it is, the companies can't fight it either, or else they are attacked too. Companies can't even ask for time to look into it without coming across as not believing the accusations as unfounded as they are, because even the hint of a delay or wanting to find out more will be judged and will get them canceled too. And no one wants to get canceled, even if it means turning your back on someone else getting canceled, even someone you'd worked with in the trenches for years, end quote. Yeah, that's the messed up part. Actually, no, that's even the more messed up part. Like, this could be someone you knew for a long-ass time. Like, this could be someone you knew, like, for years. And then one day, someone accuses them, and if you don't disown them and turn your back on them, you're canceled too. It's worse than guilt by association. It's just messed up. It's all kinds of wrong, and I hope these women get dragged through the coals for this. Like, I hope they get put through the ringer. Even if they don't suffer some consequences, I would say just dragging them through this out of pure spite alone would be worth it. Just to expose, just to temporarily tell the world and accuse in response, these women are liars. They are vindictive bitches, if they are what they are. And they are lying about me. And I've come to accuse them just as they've accused me. The only difference being he might be telling the truth or they might be telling... Like, you don't know who to believe. But if the evidence is good enough, maybe some good will come out of this. I mean, this is in America still. I mean, it's in California, which is the most backwater place I've ever heard of. But it's still in America, and there are rules to follow, so maybe there's a chance this can go in his favor. Maybe. Avellone doesn't hold a grudge towards these studios, however. He understands how hard this can be in the current climate of cancel culture and guilt by association, which is bullshit. You are supposed to have freedom of association in this country. Shouldn't matter what your associate has been accused of. You should be allowed to associate with whoever you want. But keeping with the article, in an era when allegations are enough and no proof of wrongdoing is required, a few tweets can end someone's career and potentially cause a big problem for a video game studio, which again is bullshit. Please know, quote, please know that even saying this, unquote, he continues, quote, I don't bear Techland any ill will. I still consider myself fortunate that I lasted longer than the other writers for Dying Light 2. There were a lot. Some I never even got a chance to meet before they were gone. Even though I doubt anything I contribute still remains in the game, and I am fine with that, I will admit, though, both of their statements, especially the Gato Salvaggi one, the Waylanders, and the studio that had pushed for the unwanted IGN video, were painful to read. And I have no idea what he's talking about, because I just remember hearing he was getting the boot because of some bullshit, but I'll have to look into that later. He does, however, bear some ill will towards the press. Quote, other parts of these stories that were parroted by others are easy to prove false with a little research. Wait, you expected the press to do research? Come on, that's a little too reasonable, don't you think? Back to the quote. If even a little research had been done, he writes, None of the press did any such research I'm aware of, even for the easiest confirmations. For example, a woman, Christy Dina, claims we shared a night together in 2013 when I wasn't even on the same continent. End quote. Particularly egregious in Avallone's view was the article published by gamer Sean Murray, which still shows up prominently when Googling Avallone's name. The headline reads, Report, game writer Chris Avellone alleged to have drugged and assaulted countless women, despite no allegations of drugging anyone having been made. Carissa's story included him getting her blackout drunk, something he denies, and she claims she saw him using similar tactics on other women, but again, no evidence of any of this exists, and Avallone's story differs wildly, nor was this a report as the headline suggests. The report suggests an investigation of some kind was carried out and reported on. This was an allegation made on Twitter, nothing more. The headlines is purposely misleading, and are you really that surprised? This is the media. They are the scummiest of scumbags. They do anything for clicks. They will finger anything with a pulse. Like, you shouldn't be that surprised. Well, he may not be that surprised. I don't think anyone is, but unfortunately there are idiots out there who believe this shit, and yeah, Chris Avellone should probably be watching his back whenever he goes outside. Quote, to be clear, unquote, writes Avellone, quote, the game press don't need to check the facts. End quote. All they need to do is report that someone said something or fall back on word alleged, and it's a story. And so they did. And the clicks started rolling in as soon as the press quote and report, and that's massive quotes around report, something like this, however, it carries the same validation as if it was researched and fact-checked, which no press publication to my knowledge did. Again, imagine my shock. I admit much of the story originally flew under my radar. I saw one tweet from a third woman not involved in the libel suit that included private text between her and Avellone, and it all looked very bad, quite frankly. Private text without context can frame anyone in a bad light, and our knee-jerk reaction is to believe the accuser, especially in the Me Too era. Beyond this, I kept out of it entirely, avoiding the story as I avoided many others at the time. And you know what? To that I say, fuck Me Too. They've made it impossible for me to take a woman who says this stuff seriously now. But yeah, it's messed up, and I'd never believe the accuser anymore. Like, if they just come out and say he did this with no evidence whatsoever, or nothing to back it up, I say fuck them. Tell them, show me the receipts, or fuck off. And these women should have been told to fuck off. Unfortunately, we have a lot of simps who love to white knight for a bunch of bitches just because they're so self-righteous, and it's really annoying that these people are allowed to get away with this. That they are never taken to task for the bullshit that they've done, for the damage they have done. Like, they have done damage to women that it'll take years to repair. Probably, maybe even not even years, but yeah, it is hard for me, at least, to take women seriously now whenever they say this. It's like, you come out and you give no evidence whatsoever, and these are women I don't know, so it's even harder for me to believe them. And they just do this, and they get away with it. The same with people on Twitter, they just say whatever the front-flipping fuck they feel like, and they suffer no consequences. They give no validation to their claims. They give no evidence to support it. It's either their word or someone to back them up that has biased reasons to back them up. Back to the article. So I did not cover the allegations or the story at the time, despite having long admired Avallone's work in the video game industry. I did not look further into it and did not research out for comment from anyone involved. Since I wasn't covering it, there didn't seem a need to. At the time, I had sworn off all controversial topics and politics for my own mental health. Bullet dodge there, my friend. Between COVID-19, the Trump-era madness, and the various personal issues, I was not at my best and and avoiding controversy, including controversy around Sony and Naughty Dog censoring YouTubers over The Last of Us Part 2 leaks. Irrelevant, but hey, what the heck. Seemed like a good idea at the time. You may not realize this, but covering controversial topics can be enormously stressful and demoralizing, and it's best not to enter the fray if you're too frayed around the edges yourself. Well, I can't disagree with you there, my friend. I really cannot. Like, I find this stuff kind of depressing sometimes. Like, when you see nothing but the worst of humanity, it really crushes your soul sometimes. Wading back into these waters, Lily, I understand why, though part of me regrets this decision, however sensible it seemed at the time. In retrospect, I wish I had taken a closer look, especially since apparently nobody else did. Over the past few months, I have begun covering more controversial stories once again, both here and at my Substack. Subscribe, and more often than not, there is much more to the story than meets the eye. Sometimes these allegations turn out to be more complicated, the messy fallout of a bad breakup or relationship gone awry. Sometimes they're much more serious than that. Often the press does not do its due diligence when reporting over the issues, and the results can be calamitous for people's lives, reputations, and careers. I won't go into depths of the backstory behind all this. Nothing I can summarize will do a better job than simply going to the source. Avellone posted his side of the story in this blog post, which he has posted a link to. He posted his Twitter thread as a separate blog post here. Barrow's allegations can be found on Twitter, though they are protected. Shocker. Much more will come out when this goes to court. I recently covered the story of Alexis Kennedy, another game developer who was accused of sexual misconduct and denied all allegations, but was still thrown under the bus without any proper investigation taking place. What I wrote in this piece applies here as well. My interest in this story is the same vein as a defense attorney's. When they look at the criminal trial, the presumption of innocence is sacred. We abandon it at our own peril, and I believe that social media and the speed at which information and misinformation travels in today's hyper-connected world makes this issue more important than ever, end quote. And, quote, typically when these types of allegations are leveled, reporters go to great lengths to ensure that the accuser is telling the truth. This is important for many reasons. It's crucial that journalists get a story like this right because many different people's reputations are on the line, including their own. It's all well and good to say believe women, but you find yourself responsible for ruining the lives of several University of Virginia students falsely accused of rape, and that is an oddly specific. Oh, the Jackie case. That's what it is. Holy shit, that one takes me back. Now your career is in the gutter, and several young men have had their lives and reputations destroyed. Believe women, certainly, but not without doing your due diligence. Quote, when reporting a story like this, journalists set out to find corroborating witnesses, not merely other people on Twitter who claim to have heard similar stories. Hearsay and gossip may point us in helpful directions, but there's no suitable substitute for evidence. So reporters must dig and find witnesses whose stories can bulwark the original accuser's case or disprove it, end quote. It's one thing to have a knee-jerk reaction on Twitter to something that seems very bad. It's another altogether when you decide to level judgment, and another still when you choose to cover a story without either A, getting the facts right, or B, at least attempting to approach a subject with a balance and caution. Writing sober, measured takes may not be fun and may not get as many clicks, but it's nevertheless the right thing to do. We should still treat the court of public opinion as the same as the court of law, with justice, not retribution or politics as the true goal. Yeah, that's kind of good luck with that, because the court of public opinion is an ass and should be burned to the ground. Because, you know what, opinions suck. That's all the media gives us, opinions. All that being said, I admit that I know I no more know the truth of the matter than you or anyone else other than those intimately involved in this story. Avellone has finally come forward with his version of events, and I wish he had done that sooner. His accusers made their versions public in 2020. None of us can possibly know who is telling the truth, who is exaggerating, who is telling lies. Where is a gray area where two people can remember or interpret events very differently as well. Anyone who pretends otherwise is selling something. Yeah, snake oil salesman. A libel case is serious, far more serious than the accusations made on social media, and what follows will be crucial to our understanding of events regardless of the outcome. Evidence is required in a court of law, if not in the court of public opinion. Witnesses will be called, text will be provided, something at least much closer to the truth will emerge based on the testimony and evidence. In the meantime, we should reserve judgment and remember that there's a reason we presume innocence, and it's largely the same reason we listen to accusations and take them seriously. The truth is paramount. Even Avellone, whose reputation and career have suffered greatly over the past year, acknowledges the need to both listen and reserve judgment. Quote, I'm in the game industry, unquote, he writes, quote, and there are many problems in the game industry that need to be addressed. We should not be silent about them, and when people came forward, we should listen to these voices. I have listened for a year. When someone feels they have been wrong, their story should not be dismissed. These stories should be investigated as if they are true. I also believe facts should be put before judgment is delivered. Should be put forth before judgment is delivered. I spent the last year trying to persuade myself that these acts were done out of a misguided sense of self-righteousness. I have tried to correct the record, dispel misconceptions, allow voices to be heard, but it is clear I was wrong. The attacks against me were made from malice. I'm ready to defend myself and gain the record straight in this is the first step, end quote. Now all we can do is wait and learn more. As always, my best suggestion is to stay out of it. Don't go on Twitter and harass or harangue anyone. Don't take sides or make bold proclamations about guilt or innocence. Let the dust settle and the chips fall where they may. Keep an open mind. The truth will out as the saying goes. Alright, that's all the article. Thank God my throat was starting to hurt from reading all that. And, the situation's fucked. Like, I hope these women get dragged through and get held accountable. And I hope, I doubt the court's actually going to side with Avellone, but you know what? I can at least hope. I want to believe that there is some good in the world. I mean, there ain't a lot of good anymore, but I can at least hope. Just because the world's crumbling around me and burning to the ground doesn't mean I can't at least hope the fire will die out eventually. And, yeah, it is really sad that this is the state of affairs where instead of there being an actual investigation, people can lose their jobs over just an accusation alone. There's no investigation. Like, due process is being... It's like they're trying to destroy due process. Because they only care about it when the barrel is pointed at them. When they're the ones staring down the barrel of cancel culture, then they give a shit. But when it's someone else, they don't give a shit. So you know what? These people who do this, call them out on it. Don't harass them. Whenever you do see stuff like this, you need to call people out on it. Say, I don't believe you. Show me evidence. Or show me the receipts. Or something. And like I say this all the time in real life. Well, not all the time, but I remember saying this once about... Like, I had to do this one thing for a class once where I said reasons why you shouldn't believe journalists all the time. Yeah, don't be sheep. Actually look into the stuff before you believe these opinions. And to anyone who believes these women, just because they accuse this man, you're a fucking fool if you believe them based on that alone. If you are not going to listen to evidence, you are an idiot. And I cannot wait for the day when you are the one who knows what it feels like to be falsely accused. Or at the very least accused, because usually when these self-sanctimonious people do all this, it usually turns out they have a worse skeleton in their closet. So I wonder what these women are compensating for. Unless, of course, they just feel good on tearing someone else down, in which case, fuck them. Fuck them and fuck them, sir. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Actually, you know what? I wouldn't want another because this isn't good for my soul. But yeah, that's the article. I'm glad this is happening. Don't get me wrong. I am glad. And I kind of like this Eric King guy's take on it. I mean, I probably don't agree with him all the time, but hey, at least he seems to have his mind seems to be in some of a right place. And I will be posting a link to this article below so you can read it for yourself because I made a lot of little comments of my own while reading. So if you want to read the full thing with uninterrupted, unabridged or whatever, you will find that in the description. And with that, all that out of the way, I will be calling it with this video. Have a nice day. And remember, the game was rigged from the start.